G'day all you music lovers and creators. Welcome back to part 2 of my 4-part series on how I make and perform beats in Ableton Live 11. The beat that I created in this tutorial is called Moonfields and has now been released as a full track on my debut EP Earth Arcadia. So as I mentioned in the last video, most of my single releases start out as a 1-minute beat idea that I then arrange into a full track. And I can't express enough how much creating 1-minute beats has helped me as a music producer. I can't express enough how much 1-minute beats has helped me to develop my skills as a music producer. It has helped me to learn music production faster. So I share this series because hopefully I can inspire you in incorporating this daily practice or regular practice of creating 1-minute beats. So again, you're going to get to see the humble beginnings of my track Moonfields and how I came up with this idea. So what I want to do is give you a bit of an updated overview of this series because in the last video I got it all wrong. Well, not all wrong, but just slightly wrong. So part 1 is going to be about producing, so how I produce my beats. And I've already released that video. Part 2 is now going to be about performance, so how I perform my beats in front of a camera. And part 3 is going to be about arranging and mixing, how I arrange and mix my beats. And part 4 is going to be all about how I edit my beats to use in beat videos for socials. And this is the exact order and process that I go through whenever I create 1-minute beats, especially if I'm going to make a beat video to post on socials. I will always produce the beat first, obviously. Second, I will perform it in front of a camera, which means performing all the different parts of the beat in front of the camera. The third thing that I usually do is I then go and arrange and mix. So I'll never arrange and mix my beat before performing it. I want to perform it and I want the performance to dictate how I'm going to arrange and mix my beat. And then finally, I go through and edit my beat video. So that is the updated version of this series. So part 1 is produce, part 2 is perform, part 3 is arrange and mix, and part 4 is edit beat video. So in this video, which is part 2, I'm going to show you my full raw uncut process of how I perform my beat in front of a camera with no editing cuts. I'm just going to show you the full process and the raw audio, including the metronome that I usually play to perform my beats. So you're going to hear the performance in its raw audio form. So not only am I going to show you my full raw uncut process of how I perform my beats, but I'm also going to share with you the gear and equipment that I use to film my beats. Again, as I mentioned in the last video, this is not a thorough step-by-step guide on how to produce beats. But if you are an absolute beginner and you have no experience in music production, I highly recommend to check out my tutorial on how to make a simple beat in Ableton Live 11 first, and then come back and watch this series because everything that I share in this series will make much more sense if you watch that video first. Also, if you would like a copy of this Ableton project, you can download it from either my Patreon or Ko-Fi store, which are both free to join. And if you'd like a copy of my debut EP Earth Arcadia, you can actually download it for free from my Bandcamp by entering $0 at the checkout. Or if you have the means to and you would like to, you can also choose to donate as well. Okay, so now that that's out of the way, let's get into the tutorial. And I just want to start out by sharing the gear and equipment that I use to film my beats. So obviously you're going to need a laptop and Ableton, to play and perform your beat. So that's a given, that's baseline. Then a MIDI controller is what you're also going to need. And in this beat video, I used the Push 2 to perform this beat, and I had the Push 2 sitting on a stand. I also use either my headphones or a Bluetooth speaker to play back the music that I'm performing, or I use my monitors. And that's pretty much all of the music gear that I need to perform my beats. And in terms of filming gear, I use a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera 4K along with Samyang Mark II lenses. And the main one that I like to use is a 24mm and also an SSD card which is attached to the Blackmagic to capture all the footage. I also recommend having an external hard drive, and I have so many external hard drives, so that once I finish filming my performance, I then transfer the footage from my SSD onto my main hard drive for permanent storage. The SSD is really just to capture the footage, and I don't ever store anything permanently on the SSD. It always gets transferred to an external hard drive. Now, it's very important if you're going to get into beat making, making music, filming your music performances, that you have a well organized workflow and filing system on hard drives, especially external hard drives. So I recommend to have at least around 2 to 5 terabytes of storage space on a hard drive. And even that gets filled up pretty quickly. I go through a few hard drives a year. So I highly recommend to set up some good filing practices before you get into music production, because you want to make sure that you basically file your Ableton projects away in a system where you can easily find it later on. And I've basically learned the hard way. In the beginning, I had no idea about good filing practices, and I had just music and projects and film footage in all different folders and different hard drives, and it was just a mess. So I highly recommend to get really organized with your filing system when you are creating art and projects, especially when it comes to music production and video production. So an external hard drive is very important for that. But obviously you don't need to have all of this gear that I have. You can just start out recording and filming your videos on your phone. That's how I started out. I started, filming videos on my phone, and then progressed to a small mirrorless camera, which was the Panasonic G7. And then finally I landed on the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K. So it is a process, and your camera on your phone will be fine to begin with. I just recommend to make sure that the lighting is good. So, if you don't have artificial lighting, if you don't have a small light, then you can always utilize natural light, because that's free and it's everywhere. So, just make sure that you get the lighting right in your videos, and it will be enjoyable for others to watch. And also, the second thing that I would recommend is just make sure that your beat is well mixed. It doesn't need to be a mix of a commercial level. It just has to be mixed well enough for other people to enjoy listening to. So that's pretty much all of the gear and equipment that I use. So maybe for you, all you're going to need is your camera, your laptop, and a MIDI controller at a bare minimum to film a beat video. All right, so what I'd like to do now is share with you my full raw uncut process of how I filmed and performed this beat in front of a camera. And you're going to hear the raw camera audio. It's not going to be edited. It's just going to be me, filming myself making this beat. So hope you enjoy it. Hope you learn something from it. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment and I'll do my best to get back to you. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me in part 2 of this series. I hope you learned something. I hope you are inspired on your music making journey. Don't forget, if you want this Ableton project, head over to my Patreon or Ko-Fi to download it from my store. And you can join me for free on either of those platforms. And also, if you would like a copy of my EP, you can download that for free from my Bandcamp. Just head to the links in the description. All right, well, my name is Electronics. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you in the next video.